And then now for like some sad news, we have a judicial majority opinion here. This was a constitutional challenge to Chapter 23 of the bylaws, which is censure and override. Chapter 23, Section 3 of the bylaws has been ruled unconstitutional by the Judicial Council. And furthermore, to go along with that, the actions that were taken last week on the April 26th Senate meeting that tried to remove the censures applied to Senators Cole, Levon, and Cortez Hernandez is null and void, and those censures still stand. If you have any questions or any concerns about this, you can bring those questions to our next Judicial Council meeting, or if you have concerns, file an appeal. And the third thing I'd like to address is third-party review of stuff. Let's talk about why we have a Judicial Council, which is to review the Constitution. If you don't agree with our ruling of the Constitution, you can appeal it. Having a third party gives you zero authority. You can't outsource the job of judicial to someone else. If you don't like that, rewrite the Constitution and put a lawyer as your Judicial Counsel. But as it stands now, we're the final say on interpretations of the Constitution, we're the final say on interpretations of the bylaws, and if you don't like that, make a constitutional amendment to get rid of Judicial Council. Any questions can be brought to the Judicial Council. Next week, our meeting should be on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Chief Justice Bujama has a concurring opinion to go with my majority opinion. This will be online tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and furthermore, just to load up what Justice Thielhart said, my concurring opinion basically spells out, I know there's been some concerns as to whether or not the process was fulfilled, and so basically, that wasn't really what you should have been looking at in making any decisions, whereas there's a procedure listed by the ASUCR bylaws. Rules of procedures basically allows for there to be like a penal system, and the censure happened as a result of the penal system is listed under the rules of procedures. Therefore, hypothetically speaking, even if the bylaw for actions that had been taken by Senate was constitutional last week, it wouldn't have had any effect because it didn't start from the right place. But that's been ruled unconstitutional, so this is basically providing clarification to say that the censure was in rules of procedures. And so everything that still stands, everybody that was censured before is still censured. If you have any questions, as Casey Thielhart said, ask at our next judicial meeting.
So clarification for you all as well. The reason why we went to third party is our parliamentarian is always encouraged to utilize her resources because it's an extremely difficult job. Not only that, there's a lot of things to go over in the Robert's Rules of Order that is very limited in the time of year, and oftentimes they're students, they're not licensed. So we decided to go to someone who is actually licensed to provide feedback and also just assistance on how we should move forward, because we basically just followed what the Constitution said, which directed us to the bylaws, and from there the bylaws. But now, since you all have your majority opinion overriding it, I just wanted to let you all know why we did decide to go to not as a third party, but just a parliamentarian, because we wanted more information on that. But I will move forward to Senator Ira, and then we'll end with Senator Moore if there are no other comments.
So I just wanted to clarify whether or not leaving aside the decision itself, it seems sort of unfair to keep placing these senators in or out. It's not fair to kind of drag them along like that. So what would the next step for them be if we can't recognize them as senators? What do they have to do to
they are senators, they're just not paid, and they don't have voting rights. So it's also going to be lifted in a week, because it's week 6 next week, everyone. So hopefully that will be resolved by then. But I do believe that we have the wording of censure is completely, it's just very ambiguous in our Constitution as well as in other places. So maybe we want to work together and try to figure that out and ensure that something like this doesn't happen in the future.
Okay,
can I do a senator first before I go
okay,
back
I
to
just
you?
wanted to answer.
We didn't answer the
yeah.
question.
Appeal. That's literally what we've said, that anytime people have challenged our things is file an appeal. And we literally have only gotten one appeal to something you guys have challenged, which was Jose filed an appeal 2 weeks ago about the disbanding of your side. Also, just to address like the third party thing, you're welcome to do that, and you're welcome to bring that in as evidence when you file your appeal, but you can't use that as authority to make decisions.
We didn't,
Like-
we didn't use that as authority, we just simply, that was suggestions I was
But
given
if
to
that
us,
was,
and
if that was the
we believed that it
interpretation,
was right, so we went with the decision that was made.
but they can't make, you guys can't make that decision, and neither can that parliamentarian.
Sorry.
Senator Moore.
I'm so sorry, can I clarify just the appeal thing?
Sure.
You know, a lot of the senators feel like if you guys ruled a certain way the first time, the appeal, you know, might not really net a different result. So what goes differently than when an appeal goes through?
Well, if I may, there is actually a few justices on the council that were willing to hear the appeal when we, told people to file it. But the thing is, they waited until, we told them the decision for like, let's take Jose's case in particular, that one came out in like week 7 and week 8. And in week 3 of spring quarter, it's like almost a month and a half later is when it came out. And at that point, it was just inconvenient, and it wouldn't have been practical to even hear the appeal because of the effect and essentially what it was asking for. So basically, it's like, we're not like, even if we rule a certain way, right? We rule that based off of the evidence and the facts that are presented before us. And so if you file an appeal and you have like, an argument that you feel needs to be considered, or you have evidence that you think might change the opinion of the Judicial Council, then it's recommended that you present
Give me a
that.
second, no food allowed on the Senate horseshoe. You may continue, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, he's not eating. There's someone who was about to. You may continue. You can sit down there.
So, yeah, like I've talked to senators on this horseshoe, like, they've said that they've asked me about like different cases, and they've said that they've had evidence that they feel would be necessary, or that they feel like can change the opinion of the council, but even then they chose not to bring that evidence. And personally, like if they showed me that evidence in an appeal setting, I would have actually moved to rehear the case, but it was never officially filed until the actual election date, at which point it's not practical. So if you have evidence, or you feel like you have an argument that needs to be made, then make that argument, and then we will listen. And if
It also took you guys a really long time to come out with a majority opinion after you all given out the strike, so it was difficult for, I know some of the senators, they wanted to appeal at that time, but it just didn't seem like, they didn't know the reasons as to why, so they couldn't even appeal, and they had to wait 2 weeks, I think it was.
Took me a week to write it after I sent it out, so.
It was
if
2 weeks, it was for sure 2 weeks, we were waiting, and it
for
came out
sure
the
was
Thursday.
not.
It came out the Thursday of last.
I can clarify the dates, but I'm for sure it was about a week. The other
Yes.
issue is we have to get signatures for the majority opinion, so even if the majority opinion is ready, we tried to not do e-signatures because as people have said, it kind of looks weird and sketchy, but when stuff becomes pressing amounts of time, we all don't have the exact same schedule, it's hard for us to meet up at times, and it takes time to write our majority opinions.
Misunderstanding of dates aside, we will do our best to ensure that we're getting our signatures and getting everything filled out in as timely manner as possible.
Thank you, okay. Senator Moore, and then Senator Cortez Hernandez, and then Senator Lebon. So we'll go in that way, and then you all can answer the questions at the very end, okay? Perfect, Senator Moore.
What exactly made it, the bylaw of censuring, like, what made that unconstitutional where you guys could carry out the censuring?
That's question number 1. Senator Moore.
No.
Okay, Senator Cortez Hernandez.
Well, I have 2 questions. One's not pertaining to the case, but I guess so the first one, so Casey, you wrote the majority opinion,
Which one?
the one regarding my signature.
Yes.
Well, don't you think, like, it's just a general comment, but I saw that you use, like, terms such as, like, negligent for describing me, and you even, like, called me incompetent during the hearing. Like, I thought that was really uncalled for, and it, like, hurt my feelings. And then also, regarding, the recent judicial meeting where you all decided to vote to, allocate, I forgot, what was the exact amount for the?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'll wait till
so
the end, but
wait till the end. You got another question.
Well, I just wanted to know how they came up with that exact number.
Perfect.
I'll
Okay,
address
so
that.
they will address it at the very end. Senator Lebon.
It's more of a comment, it's just that, when you guys sent out the majority opinion, I wish that I was contacted when I knew when I could appeal, because I wanted to appeal, but it's kind of like late in the process, of my censorship, so I don't see a point of me appealing at this moment, since, I think the appeal was over in like a couple weeks or so.
Next week. Next Wednesday. Hello.
So, that's just a comment.
Okay.
so, do you wanna go first or should I?
Yeah, do you want me to read out the majority opinion, Carisha? It's gonna be posted online, and this is our only copy, that's why I don't wanna pass it around, because this has all the signatures. It should. Okay. Pursuant to the powers given to the ASUCR Judicial Council by the ASU Constitution, the judicial council has the authority to verify. Oh, this is our authority to review bylaws. So I'm just going to ignore that part. The ASUCR Constitution mentions censure only one time under Article 6, Section E, Part F, which states. The ASUCR Judicial Council can review any cases of request for censure and or removal by a member of ASUCR as outlined in the ASUCR Constitution and bylaws. The ASUCR Constitution additionally states in Article 2, Section B, that no individual or group of individuals within any of the branches may exercise powers delegated to or authority vested in any of the other branches except as expressly stated in the Constitution herein. The Judicial Council finds that Section 3 of Chapter 23 of the bylaws conflicts with the powers given to the Judicial Council. Censure only appears one time throughout the entire ASUCR Constitution, giving judicial the power to review any cases of a request for censure. No other branches delegated powers related to censure. The question then becomes, what does the Constitution mean by stating review? The ASUCR Judicial Council believes that the intentions of the authors of the Constitution was to reserve the powers of penal action for the Judicial Council. Given this interpretation of the Constitution, we believe that Section 3 of Chapter 23 attempts and weakens the powers given to the ASUCR Judicial Council by the Constitution. This ruling only extends to Section 3 of Chapter 23 of bylaws. The Judicial Council makes no claims to having the ability to define what a censure is or is not. You guys, as Senate, get to define what censure is. If you guys wanted to go through and make censure just a formal rebuke saying we don't agree with that, you guys are entirely up to decide that. We just get to apply censure. That's essentially the gist of it. Yeah, is that good?
Wait, I think you just, if we get to define censure, I thought you defined censure by saying it was the point system thing, so therefore it was different.
No. Point system is how you arrive to censure.
Yeah.
But what censure is not up for us to define. Yeah, you guys could make censure just nothing at all and just a word and it'd be fine.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm gonna keep addressing questions. For Jose, I'm sorry if you felt that way. B, the allocation, we actually voted that down. That was, the Highlander screwed up on that, and I made an argument that I don't, as a associate justice, I felt this way last year as a senator, I still feel this way as an associate justice. I don't feel we do enough work to get paid, so I argued we couldn't get paid. And it was supposed to be like $990 per quarter for senator, or for justices. I said no, we voted 202 to strike that down. So we will not be allocating $5,000 in fees. That was an error in the newspaper.
Furthermore, just to say that we can't actually allocate the money, so that was us setting up for our budget for next year. That was us asking the ASUCR to finance committee to make those ones. So we can't just do that. So that was us sending a proposal, but we struck that out. As Justice Gilhart just stated, and yeah, what was it? Yeah.
I think that was addressed to all of them.
No.
Or Arnel.
Oh yeah, Arnel. I'm sorry, it was my fault. I took too long writing the thing. It's one of those things we have to write it out. We have to write it out and then we have to get signatures. And A, we're students, so it takes a while to write it out sometimes. And B, sometimes we have to track people down, and it becomes a pain in the ass to track people down. So I'm sorry. Yeah, just understand that applying censure, it was nothing personal. Jamie's one of my closest friends. I've known Arnel. I love Arnel. It's not a personal thing with censure.
There is another, did you want to address the other comment of Jose? Or could that be
Which one?
I said I apologize if you felt that way.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I still stand by those
So we
statements.
actually have the list open now, so it's Senator Young, then it's Senator Ira, then it's Senator Moore, then Senator Cortez Hernandez, okay? Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, I'll go.
Okay, Senator Young, you don't need to walk back up and forth. Thank you for doing so. No, you're fine, let's go, please,
All right,
proceed.
one thing that you mentioned was, kind of the intention of the right of the Constitution and everything. And I do believe it's important, it's your job as justices to interpret the law and everything. But personally, and this is just a reflection of what I'm seeing, is that we're really following the law and we're not really, just to me, it doesn't seem like we're really looking for the best interests of the students in a direct way. Just to put everything in perspective, why are we doing this? what's the effect on the students, and just like, where are we going with this?
Can I answer it?
That's a broad question, I'm sorry.
I'll try and answer as best as I can. Okay, for the first thing, this goes to constitutional law, but there's textual interpretations and there's a spiritual interpretation. Textual, like, you have a right to bear arms, that's in our US Constitution, but you can go in the spirit of, hey, what exactly do they mean by right to bear arms? Are you allowed to hold a fully automatic AR-15 versus just, it's, you get to kind of decide what the spirit is. And that's one of our authorities, is to decide that. And furthermore, we're trying to keep all of you accountable to the student body. Like, none of this is personal vendetta shit. We're literally, the issue is, I noticed this when I was a senator. I still maintain this is true. It's one of the reasons why when I was a senator, because originally senators were the ones that applied waivers. I was the one that wrote the bylaws to change it to give it to judicial. I did that when I was a senator because I believe what happens with Senate a lot of times is all of you ran together and none of you guys want to hold each other accountable. And that's what I believe judicial council should do, is hold the Senate accountable because you guys don't do it yourselves. And I'm sorry if that offends any of you, but I believe it's true because you don't.
I'm gonna put you at the end of the speaker list just because there's a lot of people that want to talk. So Senator Ira, you are next.
So I just want to clarify, so for instance, we just wanted to make censure, like, if we already wanted to just basically end censure and say they've already faced enough punishment, where they're censured, but basically they still have their pay and their voting rights, could we do something like that? Could we have a vote like today to do that?
Well, that would require you guys changing the bylaws, and I think that would have to go through LRC. I'd have to look at the exact constitution and stuff.
I was just going off your earlier comment of like, Senate has the right to, or you said something along the lines of like, Senate determines what censure means.
Yeah, you guys can, we only struck down one part of chapter 23 of the bylaws. Chapter 23 defines what censure is and it had this process in it. We only struck down the process. You guys are still more to define censure as whatever you guys want it to be, as long as it doesn't, usurp something else. So if you try to make censure worse than like impeachment, I don't know how you would, but if you somehow found a way to do that, that would be unconstitutional. But if you guys wanted to change censure to essentially be a formal rebuke, basically just saying if someone gets censured, it's just them basically having a designation of judicial didn't like what they do, you are completely within your rights to define censure as what you want
We
it
would
to
have
be.
to do that through bylaws and then.
I believe so because the bylaws currently define what censure is. So yes, it'd have to go through LRC. So the earliest you could do this is next week.
Because like, sorry, I'll finish. My concern is like, I feel like while the punishment like may have been necessary in the beginning, like at this point.
The time has expired.
Can somebody extend my time?
No. Don't do it.
I'm in a tell. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people down on the line.
Oh, so maybe.
Oh, 15.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
Take it away.
Alright, second.
Okay, are there any objections? Okay, are there any objections? Okay, we'll take this into vote. All in favor of extending time by 15 minutes? All opposed? Jeez, I've never had to break a tie before.
Yeah, please.
Today's the day.
Think about the students.
Can we be halfway at 10?
I remember Taylor only had to break a tie
We do
for some really bullshit.
We can get 5 minutes.
35
Okay, 5
seconds.
minutes.
Let's do 5.
5 minutes. Are there any objections to 5 minutes? Yes? We'll take this into a vote again. All in favor?
3 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. All opposed? 1. Any abstained? 5, 1, 2. Motion passes.
Alright,
You may continue.
all I was gonna say was that at this point, it's just now become kind of like, and I'm not saying this is anybody's fault, but it's just kind of become a mockery, like where every week we don't really pass bills or anything, and most of us are concerned with like, how this particular situation is going. So I'm wondering if we could just, as a Senate vote today, and just say, censure, has been met since it's only a week away, we're wasting time, we should be focusing on legislation and so on and so forth.
It's actually hindering the process of a lot of committees, because I know that a lot of them sit on LRC,
Can't find it.
and
So just to address, I mean, you have 16 senators, we only censored 3, you guys should hold the rest of your senators accountable to actually showing up to
No, I
meetings.
mean the committees.
I mean,
I mean-
They sit on specific committees.
I agree with that,
LRC.
but for instance, LRC is like struggling to meet.
And as far as I know, Jonathan Lee has alternates for LRC, he has informed me of that, he can contact the alternates. We are not trying to impact your guys' ability to legislate, but we have to hold you
Yeah,
accountable.
but it's
You guys
easier.
can't do whatever the
I'm
hell
just
you
looking
want.
at the
Okay,
options
let's
here,
not have
so-
this be an argument, thank you so much, thank
Thank
you,
you. I was
well
just-
heard. We did meet quorum, I would like to say that, so thank you so much, senators, for showing up, I love that you all are here. Moving on to Senator Moore.
So since since the bylaw, it was passed last year, April 23rd to be exact, of last year. And if it was, from then, it wasn't deemed unconstitutional until now, until it's like, to be used like in your favor. It's just a comment, but how come it wasn't deemed unconstitutional then, but it is now? And then also, it was voted for unanimously, and you were also a senator then, so you voted for this.
I'll address, okay,
Why
well,
wasn't it deemed unconstitutional?
well, okay, since it was passed last year, that's last year's judicial council, and I can't really speak for that, but I can speak on my account as a senator. I was on LRC at the time when it was passed, and I was a senator that voted on it. Basically, what happened, and I'm probably gonna get an angry text message, but Michael Urban was kind of upset about censure when he got censured, and he went through and we had to butcher up the censure bylaws. And it's also because censure was also, when someone, what we now is called academic leave, also used to be censored. A senator, no, it was an executive cabinet member last year got put on censure due to their grades. In our infinite wisdom as a Senate, and this is the exact stuff I talked about with Senate not being held accountable, we as Senate tried to go fuck around with the censure bylaws. I'm sorry, I've kind of lost all care. We went to try and screw around with the censure bylaws, is that better? To try and fix stuff, and we made it a complete and total mess. I'm not gonna lie, I had lunch with Michael Urban literally 4 days ago on Saturday, and we had a discussion about the censure bylaws. And literally, we got into a discussion about this, and he was trying to argue that we changed it last year to, that censure was basically nothing, and I was like, no, it's not. Because what ended up happening was something else caught the attention of Senate last year, and we kind of left the censure thing unresolved. And that's the problem, is the censure bylaws were torn up and screwed around with last year during Senate, and then we as Senate forgot. And I'll take the fault for that as a senator last year, because I was a part of that, I was a part of the LRC, but that's the honest thing. And as for it being not struck down as unconstitutional, address Joe, he was a justice last year.
And so basically with that, we handle cases as they're brought to us, no one brought a case to us, so, yeah.
But you all want to hold us accountable, whatever, okay, thank you. Moving on to Senator,
This was brought as a case now?
Yeah,
up,
yeah, someone brought it to us, so we addressed it.
I filed a case, we have the authority to go review any old bylaws, I can read this
oh,
section.
you filed a case.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my case.
So you didn't file a case last year for it, got it.
Well, because the thing, okay, so the rules and procedures were different last year, basically, yeah.
Thank you, no worries. Senator Cortez Hernandez,
And everybody trying to cut the rules.
Well,
1 minute.
well, since it's just like too late to appeal, and you said that it was like nothing personal, I just reread the majority opinion, and it specifically says Senator Cortez Hernandez is either grossly incompetent or negligent. And you didn't use either of those terms to describe any of the under senators or any like demeaning terms like that. So I just felt like I was personally attacked by like the way that you wrote it, and if it's possible that you could like change that to like remove it and then re-upload it to the website, because like it's kind of
You can call all
embarrassing
incompetent.
being described that by one of the justices who's supposed to be unbiased.
To address that, it's a statement I still stand by to this day. And it's not meant as a personal attack, it's based off your testimony. The reason it wasn't applied to Shamey or Arneal is they did not make the same ridiculous testimony you did. If you want me to explain what he did in his testimony.
Sorry, everyone.
That's what happens when you extend it. Do we need those 5 minutes?
You all are